The time is just gone 12 minutes past 8 a.m. as we kick off this morning, taking a look at the expulsion of South Africa's ex-president Jacob Zuma. The question is, we knew it was at some point in time it was going to be imminent, but just how much damage is this expulsion likely to make for the ANC? Political analyst Ongama Mtimka, good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning to you, and thank you for having me.
Well, there's never a dull moment when it comes to one man, Ubaba, Jacob Zuma, prior to the election, after the elections, and we knew at some point in time something would actually give. Now, let's just look at this decision. We know this decision was imminent. The question that was raised is why was it not taken before the elections and why after? Would this have caused a lot more damage to the ANC and the elections or influence even the outcome of the elections in a worst way for the ANC, Ongama?
Well, there is a saying that 5%, the events that we experience account for 5% of all of our misfortunes. The rest of the 95% is our response. I think the ANC was mindful of that when it decided not to deal with the Jacob Zuma matter before elections, because they knew that the type of person that he is would have him milk the response, both his departure and founding of a party, as well as the response of the ANC, such as firing him, for the political gains of MK. If you look at, for example, when the date was set for the hearing before elections, MK party was mobilizing to go and have its representatives outside of ANC offices. And what that was meant to do was meant to actually continue to generate this political mileage that would help advance President Zuma's cause. So it was good for them to actually not deal with it before elections, but deal with it after elections, because they weren't going to stop Jacob Zuma from running a party that was contesting to topple the ANC anyway.
Well, nowhere in the world would you find this situation where somebody obviously would cause damage to the party and would still remain in the party. So, from what you are saying, obviously there is justification on the part of the ANC with the expulsion of the former president. But there are a number of factors here. There are a number of key issues here as well. Looking at the ANC, looking at the damage that was caused to the ANC. And this is where the ANC is looking at justification, where they talking about Jacob Zuma, who was actively involved in question, not only questioning the integrity of the ANC, but like you mentioned, even campaigning to dislodge the ANC from power.
Absolutely. And in fact, it's the kind of betrayal, if I can use that word, that warrants a summary dismissal. That the ANC is wanting to still be constitutional about it and follow process is commendable. Otherwise, it's the kind of act that warrants a summary dismissal. Now, what is odd to me is to find that both the MK party and the Jacob Zuma Foundation are speaking on this matter as though it concerns them as organizations. I mean, the MK party in its rhetoric stopped short of campaigning for President Zuma to remain a member of the ANC while a leader of MK party. I mean, it's just absurd.
How much of a concern is it to the ANC on the damage that Jacob Zuma has caused the country? Because one of the statement reads, and I quote, his platform is dangerous, appeals to extremist instincts in our body politic and riles up a political base that may foment social unrest. And this came from an ANC statement.
Yeah, so the activities of former President Jacob Zuma are tantamount to those of warlords, minus the militia that are usually a characteristic of warlords. This activity of failing to achieve your political ambitions inside the party in two elective conferences, and then deciding to go and campaign outside using rhetoric which is delegitimizing the very government and the constitutional order of the republic is a cause for concern. Julius Malema did leave the ANC and form a political party, same as Bantu Olomisa. But even though Julius Malema's agitations are also anti-systemic, they are not to the extent of, being tantamount to mobilizing for a social unrest. He's acting with the confines of democratic practice to try and advance what he calls an economic freedom in our lifetime. But what Jacob Zuma has appeared to be doing in different times has been, sometimes caused one to wonder whether they want an armed struggle or they are prepared to continue to limit themselves to democratic practice in parliament. So I was comforted and assured when the leader of the opposition in parliament stated that as MK party they were committed, to opposition politics in a democratic fashion. But sometimes their rhetoric makes one cringe because it sounds as though they want to start an armed struggle in South Africa.
I'm actually quite glad you raised the issue about Julius Malema and also Bantu Holomisa. And obviously, there is a huge difference between the two of them leaving, forming their own parties, and Jacob Zuma. And because Jacob Zuma, obviously being the former president, and again, in terms of his popularity, in terms of his support base, one cannot move away from the fact, or one cannot ignore that this is someone who enjoys a huge support base in the country, and we see it with the outcome of the elections, where he's actually him and the MK have influenced the outcome to the detriment of the ANC.
Yeah, well, look, it's their democratic right to contest elections, topple the ANC if they want. What is a challenge is when they come across as though they aspire to undo a constitutional democracy and want a parliamentary democracy. And by the way, if they wanted to agitate for that in parliament and mobilize others through democratic means, that also is acceptable. What is not acceptable is to threaten, use of violence in order to achieve those political ends. Because, as I say, that's what warlords do in the rest of the continent, and that's why it's difficult to achieve sustainable peace and silencing the guns.
Just looking at the ANC, and it is clear that the ANC is in damage control mode, and some are saying there's a silver lining at the end of the cloud, where we would not have a government of national unity had it not been for someone like Jacob Zuma, who took away the support base from the ANC, not giving them a majority, and as a result, we've got a GNU, and possibly some are even saying that it could be an efficient GNU.
Yeah, I'm quite positive about the GNU, depending on the maturity of politicians in the ANC and the DA, as well as the smaller parties that form part of it. It's also a reprieve rather than a permanent solution. whether or not the politics of both major parties in it transform to enable greater collaboration in future remains to be seen. Remember that the ANC is heading towards its 2027 conference, and the first test of the continued support for a rule of law and political modernization process is the National General Council next year. So if the forces that approach GNU are able to consolidate their power even at the National General Council, then what that would mean is that the future of coalition politics in South Africa is one of stability, even though there would always be an impression of uncertainty.
Ongama, I'm going to put you on hold. I need to pay some bills. We're going for a quick ad break. We'll be back.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Contact Lenasia Livestock and Poultry for all your sadaqah, akika and kurbani requirements. We offer clean, hygienic abattoir style and refrigeration facilities. Sheep, goats and cows are available at competitive market-related prices, direct to the public. We slaughter, slice and distribute in your behalf. But that's not all. Introducing Meatmasters Halal Butchery, our sister company situated on our farm in Lenasia. Unbeatable prices on lamb, beef and chicken. Lenasia Livestock and Poultry. Livestock is our business. We are Sanha approved. Telephone 011-857-1774. Call now.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with many appeal organizations in Gaza.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
The time is just gone 8:26 a.m. as we continue with the broadcast this morning right here on Salam Media on News and Views as we continue with political analyst Ongama Mtimka. And we are talking about the expulsion of former President Jacob Zuma from the ANC. Ongama, just to continue and just looking at what this expulsion actually means personally for someone like Jacob Zuma. Uh, we know he's got a rich history with the ANC. He's been through the struggle. He's been the former president. But again, when one looks at the history of the ANC, no leader, no president of the ANC has done what he has. And some are saying that the ANC may not be able to even recover from Jacob Zuma, and he could be the one to put the final nail in the coffin of the ANC.
The expulsion is the effect, not the cause of all of those considerations. So the real thought process should have been into the founding of MK Party and that announcement on the 16th of June of 2023 last year when he made that announcement. I think that was the time for all of those considerations. And what people do generally who are very abusive is that they would undertake an act that violates another person and then use the response or the mistakes in the response as the focal point and not their original infliction of pain. And I think that any attempt to say the issue is the expulsion itself is falling into the gambit of Jacob Zuma, because you see, this is what he wanted to be the conversation even during the campaign period, so that his perpetual victimhood can continue to be a topical point. The fact of the matter is that he decided to found a political party or to collaborate in forming a political party that would topple the ANC, and all considerations about his legacy should have been thought about. That what the ANC is doing what is logical for any political party, making sure that there's no ambiguity whatsoever about his standing in the party after having done what he's done.
And just finally, looking at the response from the Jacob Zuma Foundation and the pro Zuma support base, talking about this kangaroo court. Your thoughts on Gama?
That to me is absurd, because yes, indeed, they may label the process as a kangaroo court. Question is, what does a person who betrays a party deserve? And the answer is a summary dismissal.
Well, Ngama, thank you very much for that and for your time with us this morning. We wish you all the best, sir.
Only a pleasure.
Ongama Timka with us this morning, political analyst, against the background of the expulsion of the former president of the country, Jacob Zuma, from the African National Congress. The time is just headed for 8:30. We're going to go for a break. We come back. We're taking a look at the ICJ ruling shaking up the Middle East. Is this the end of an era for the Middle East? Oscar van Heerden unpacks when we come back after the break.